What's going on, guys? This is Mr. Teej 66 Movie Reviews. I am Mr. Teej 66. Well, with the new Spider-Man movie coming out, I thought I would go back and take a look at arguably the masterpiece of the entire Spider-Man series, 2004's Spider-Man 2. Now, I covered the first film already, and that movie is very good, but this movie is one of the great masterpieces in all of superhero movie history. I mean, I would consider this up there with The Dark Knight. Those two movies sort of are, on equal footing for me. Why? Because it's really the only Spider-Man film that I think he really questions why he's doing this, and it's not just a plot gimmick or a background thing. It is basically the entire focus of the film. It is his search for, the reason why he's even doing this and how badly it affects his personal life, which director Sam Raimi captures beautifully. In fact, the first hour, there's a few action sequences, but it's largely character stuff, and absolutely fantastic. The acting is, of course, fantastic. Tobey Maguire, a lot of people give him shit, but I don't care. I think he is absolutely the definitive Peter Parker in Spider-Man. He just looks like this wide-eyed innocent, and he looks like a dork when he's wearing the glasses and he's wandering around and going, ooh, like that. I buy it. I completely buy him as kind of a geek. Andrew Garfield, not at all. Tom Holland, somewhat. But although I don't know if I say he's not given much to do, but the dramatic stuff in his films isn't as, it's just not as, powerful. But, in this movie, they really do a fantastic job. And, at one point, he literally just quits. I mean, we've never really seen that before. The only one I can think of is the Dark Knight, where, Bruce Wayne has to quit. But we get this fantastic, I don't know if it's a flashback or, a vision with Uncle Ben where he's talking to him and saying, I can't do this anymore, I'm sorry. That's what I like about this film. There's not long-winded explanations for the unexplainable. Because at one point, Peter starts losing his powers. He can't fire his webs, and he can't stick to walls, and the movie really never explains it, which I love. Don't let logic get in the way of good drama, except in one case in this film, which I'll get to. The love story, I think for the most part, is great. Kirsten Dunst is very appealing, and she adds so much depth and dimension to what could have been the girlfriend part. Their chemistry is pretty solid. Toward the end, some of her dialogue starts to get a little cheesy when she leaves her boyfriend for Peter, and she goes to his apartment. A few of the lines feel a little George Lucas-y, but I'm willing to go with it because it's really only at the end of the film, and, the whole movie has this cornball vibe to it anyway. But the villain of the film is Dr. Otto Octavius, Doc Ock, played by Alfred Molina, who is fantastic. I mean, he basically takes a side role in this film for a Peter storyline, but what he's given to work with is pretty damn good. You feel the tragedy when he loses his wife, Donna Murphy, who's also a very good actress. She's only in really one scene, but I think they really do a really good job of that one scene in establishing their relationship. So, I actually feel bad when she, spoiler warning, gets killed. But the arms are a special effects masterpiece. I love how they just contort and, go around him. They feel like almost Medusa heads or snakes, that just tempt him, I'm sure there's maybe some biblical, references in there too, but, and the visual effects on them hold up pretty well to this day. And you've got another thing I love, all the smaller characters, like the little side characters, only in a scene or two, are great. The pizza parlor owner is hysterical. You've got, some of the train residents are great. Just these little tiny, the woman playing the violin, playing the Spider-Man theme, not huge parts, but, they're very fun to watch, and I think that's director Sam Raimi's influence. Even the quirky little characters are fun to watch. The action is off the chain. It has absolutely, positively, one of the best action sequences in any superhero movie, the train chase. Or the train battle, I should say, where Doc Ock and Spidey fight on top of a train. The action in general is just fantastic, but that scene in particular is just great. Sam Raimi really films action very well. A lot of these modern-day Marvel films, they feel a little generic in their action scenes. Some of them are better than others. The Russo brothers do a good job, but a lot of them just feel, okay. But Sam Raimi really knows how to sell a punch, a kick. When someone goes through a wall, you really feel it. So kudos to him. They've really never had a better action director, I think. Maybe other than the Russo brothers. The visual effects still hold up pretty well. Some of the some of the, trying to replicate CGI people, it looks a little now, but this movie's 15 years old, and it was ambitious, so, it doesn't really bother me that much. The CGI Spider-Man is fantastic, it moves, it's a lot less rubbery than in the first film. There's a great shot where Spider-Man gets knocked off the train, he's got to spin his webs, and he just jumps, leaps, goes over a building. It's one of the best shots in any superhero film I've ever seen. You really feel the weight and dimension and, his super agility. I mean, and this is before 3D, and just tremendous depth to the shot. It's one of my favorite shots of any superhero film. The music, fantastic. Danny Elfman's iconic theme. A lot of people don't like. Some people don't like it. I mean, maybe it's not as memorable as the Batman theme, but it's still pretty solid. Probably the thing I like the most about this film, other than the very well written drama with Peter's dilemma, is the fact that and the first film as well, and to a lesser extent the third film of that movie's a narrative disaster, is the fact that this movie is unapologetically cornball. Not just kind of cornball, really cornball. And it plays it, there's a certain camp element to it, but it still plays it relatively straight, although there is a lot of humor in the film, of course, but it's that specific Sam Raimi over-the-top style humor at just the right moments. But that's one of the things I love about this film. It is cornball as hell, and it does not have any shame in it, There's a scene that always makes me laugh, but in a good way, where after Peter Parker or Spider-Man has rescued Aunt May, he jumps in the air, spins his web and swings away. A bunch of girls come up to the screen and go, "Take me with you, Spider-Man, no, me!" It's just like, out of the blue, it's just like, where the hell did that come from? But it makes me smile. Overall, but yeah, this movie I think is one of the great superhero films of all time. I have very few, if any, flaws in it. They're more logical errors. Like, for example, there's a part where Doc Ock goes to confront Harry Osborn. He needs tritium, which is what makes his big giant machine work. I didn't even mention what the machine was. He's basically trying to sustain fusion, and it goes haywire, and it almost blows up the cities. But then he can't, concede the fact that he fails, so he's going to build it again, much bigger, and it's going to, obviously cause some shit to happen. But he goes to Harry Osborn and says, "I need more tritium." And Harry goes, "Kill Spider-Man," because he thinks Spider-Man killed his father in the last film. "Kill Spider-Man, and I'll give you all the tritium you need." It's like, well, why would he do that? Like, he's got mechanical arms. Why would he not just go, no, I'm just going to tear your arm off until you tell me where it is? Like, it just feels a little contrived a little bit, probably because it's a PG-13 rated film and they can't, go graphic violence, so I'm okay with it, but there are a few parts where I'm going, I don't know about that. There's only one part in the movie where I can't quite accept it. It's after the famous train sequence where, Spider-Man's able to stop the train, but he's exhausted, and passengers all bring him in, his mask is taken off, and, he wakes up and he's like, "Oh no, they know my identity," and one of the guys goes, "Don't worry, we won't tell anyone." Maybe it's because I'm getting older, but I just don't buy that. People are assholes, people would sell their people out for, a certain amount of money. This is just before cell phones, well, cell phones were around, but there was no social media, there was no people taking cameras, video of everything. Nowadays, it'd probably be a lot harder to do that scene because everybody had their phone out and, taking video of it, but I just don't believe that. People are jerks. People will sell people out, no matter how nice they are to them for money. I just think that somebody would be like, "Yeah, okay, no problem. Yeah, we won't tell anybody." And once they leave, "Holy shit, I know who Spider-Man is. Let's go to the papers and, sell him out for $50,000 or whatever." It's the only part of the movie where my cynical brain just starts to go, I want to believe it, but people are fucking assholes. But that's really the only major problem I have with this movie. That's the only scene where I'm like, it strikes a little false, but I cannot recommend this movie enough. The newer films, I haven't seen Far From Home yet, but Homecoming, it was fun, but they took out, I understand why they had to take out Uncle Ben, because, we don't need to see the origin a third time, but it's like at the same time, it robs it of its drama, of its heart. Like, the Homecoming just didn't have as much heart for me. really go into, the depths of the character. Like, this movie really goes into the depth of the character. The villain is, as I said, the villain is kind of the side thing, it's just the main plot, really, of the movie is Peter Parker's dilemma of wanting to continue to be Spider-Man or not, and that is very refreshing. But overall, I'm gonna give this movie a 9.6. Like, I really freaking love this movie. I cannot tell you how much I love it. Some people have different opinions, and I guess that's that, but I absolutely fucking love this movie. One of the greatest superhero films ever made. Along with the Dark Knight, and I honestly don't see that ever changing. But anyway, I would give it 9.6. This is Mr. T66, and I will see you next time.